Paintball Nerd.
Today's guest on Paintball Nerd, we are welcoming back the president of Major League Paintball, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tom Cole.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Welcome, Tom. How are you?
Good. I'm glad to be here. Just now recovered from World Cup, so I'm finally feeling like a normal person again. So
the season's over, right? From your perspective, how did it go?
I think it was an amazing season. It was obviously we broke records. The previous record for us was 594, I believe, for teams at World Cup, and we did 675 teams, which is unprecedented. And it was also the largest X-Ball tournament ever, right? So people are going to always point out that I'm playing like with the math because of the 3-man and all that stuff. Even though I think 3-man counts, people are always like, they only count the format they like. They're like 7-man, 10-man. What difference does that make? And I'm like, yeah, well, those are the ones that happen. It was also the largest amount of Europeans ever at an event because we have kind of like an initiative going in Europe that I'm proud of that I think, kind of surprised everybody how well the Europeans did. I mean, the Tauntauns ended up third, beating a couple good teams on the way there. The Luckies made it the Sunday. Verst went 2-2 and didn't move on. World Cup had a tight cut. And Joy Division, who I really wanted to win, Joy. They didn't do as well. And they kind of suffered from that. They have an American mercenary that plays for them over there in Europe, and he is pretty powerful for those guys. So I think they rely on him a little too much. So I would like to see them replace him with a European player.
Do you think that international teams will just come for World Cup, or do you think in the future that'll change and they'll come to more of the the rest of the events in the season?
So I think they'll only come. I mean, we're trying to build it up. In a perfect world for us, we would have the European Championship, an American Championship, and then the World Cup. I've always thought it was a little disingenuous to call our event the World Cup when we locked out all the European teams in the Pro Division. So I think us bringing those teams over this year, we've been doing it for a couple of years now. It's been neat, and it's definitely increase their level of play over there. I mean, anybody that says the Tauntauns weren't a contender weren't watching the same games I was. You know what I mean?
For sure.
They were the whole time. I mean, they might have even taken Dynasty overtime there or someone to overtime. So, I thought all that was good. I mean, World Cup was big, and so it was daunting, and I didn't get to do everything that I wanted to do. I hardly got to talk to anybody because there was so much stuff going on. But it was an amazing event. Felt good. So it's also the most amount of women we've ever had. I mean, we had 12 pro women's teams, and we had probably another 6 or 7 women's teams playing on the divisional side. So that part was good. It's the most amount of women ever to play paintball in a season. We got a really good picture of all of them there. Even I was like, oh, my God, we have a lot of women here. And I knew what was going on. So I thought overall it was pretty cool. I mean, the weather was great. I got lucky there. Because that's usually one of the things I get blamed for. So, So it was a great event. I mean, and our team, it's one of the things that I don't think anybody realizes, right? Like obviously I'm the guy on the shows, right? I'm the one that's doing the talking. I'm walking around saying hi to everybody or whatever. But I mean, if you knew how important like our operation guy was to getting everything done, Fatty, we call him Fatty, but Matt. And it's like every single person there works their butt off at World Cup just to get it done. So, it's important that everybody realizes how much work goes into that. Even the parking people, you know what I mean? Like all of that makes a difference into how successful the event was. So I felt it had a great vibe. I mean, obviously we'll see what everybody else says about it, but it felt like everybody was happy. And that's what I like to leave the year with, everybody happy.
Well, it's like us paintball players who kind of just show up and the event's already set up. A lot of us, the majority of us probably don't understand the effort and the work that goes into setting that all up. We just show up and it's there and probably take it for granted. But I know, Fatty is a big part of making sure everything's working smoothly and things are going up. And And
Well, it's just not
yeah,
that. It's also the thought process, and a lot of this is on him. You know what I mean? But like how the flow goes, right? Like where stuff is positioned, and it's little stuff is where the porta potties are and where the signage is and all that stuff. I mean, that all goes to creating an ambiance and an overall field event. Feng shui. I doubt if you would give it feng shui type credit, but you know what I
sure.
mean? And all that goes into the event, and we make mistakes, we learn from our mistakes, but yeah, it's a lot. And we're there for like forever. Like people always text me, and I'm not even there the longest, but people will text me and like, when you getting down here? And I'm like, I've been here for a week. And then at the end of it, they'll always text me and be like, I hope you're enjoying your day but of rest or whatever. I'm like, what are you talking about? We're still here cleaning this crap up. So yeah. So it is daunting, and it is impressive what our staff goes to build, and we just keep adding more and more stuff. It's just like just doing the national anthem and then doing the Commanders Cup, and all these little things we add just adds more complications, more work, more things that could go wrong. And so,
Of course,
you throw an exhibition in there.
Yeah, I thought that was great. Like try something new, and it's Wednesday. Get to try some funky format from Tom's brain.
Yeah, and it's fun. I mean, I definitely know and appreciated the format, and actually, watching it, there were some holes in the format. I'll be the first to admit, right? But that's why we do exhibitions, right?
Yeah, give it see what works.
I mean, if you ask anyone what the best format is, I mean, you're going to get a million answers, right? But
no.
And that's the weirdest thing. People are always like, why would you change anything? And I'm like, why are we not playing 15 man with pump guns with 12 grams in the woods, right?
Why aren't we?
Because we change things. Things move up. Someone before my time thought 15 people is too hard to get together. And 12 grams are bad for the environment. It costs 50 cents a shot. Tom K actually ruined that when he made the quick change thing. He made a device. I don't know if you know this or not.
I do.
So back in the tournament days, everybody played with 12 grams until he invented that thing. So I mean, we're always changing. Everyone's always changing. It's like, you read the people online on social media, right? And they're always talking about that. And I'm like, so you're complaining about change on a format that's only been around since 2015, which we changed in 2015 to start the new league. Playing with equipment that's all new, debating about it on a forum that didn't exist 20 years ago, like change is progress, right? And not all change is good, and you don't want to change just for the sake of changing, but you have to try some stuff, right? In my opinion, you got to try some stuff, and you don't know until you try it. And a practice of a new format isn't the same. That's the other thing everybody hits me on. Why you just do it at practice? People play completely different when money's on the line and egos on the line, and with referees and all of that stuff really changes the dynamic. So we learned some stuff from that thing, but I just wish people had more patience with trying something new.
It's just the nature of the beast, right? Like we want things our way. We want them to happen fast, and and we want someone to complain to.
Well,
so that's you, Tom.
Someone told me once, they said the easiest thing to do is to quit. And I got another one for that. The easiest thing to do is never to do anything, right? Like quitting something in the middle at least means you started it. It's
what about the ICPL? I mean, I know the NXL is your focus. That's the big show. But what are your thoughts on how the ICPL went this year?
I think the classic movement's been great, right? I think it's, whether it was started by Spencer or Tim or the UWL or whatever, everybody had a big part in kind of getting that thing moving. But it's amazing. Like it's a lot of people playing that weren't playing before. It's a neat format. I do think, it's interesting. I was at Chicago. I think you might've been there when I went on a tirade. I don't know, but, when people are like, why are you playing the finals in the woods? It's going to be a stalemate. And I was basically like, we just had a tournament that wasn't in the woods 2 weeks ago in the same city. So if you prefer that format, you need to play that. And we got to be careful just to make sure we differentiate our two different products, right? We just don't want the same customers and the same style of play just migrating between the two and making it so that it's just more of the same, right? So that's one of the things that in the future we would like to really like try and separate those and really make them two distinct formats, because I think there's something special about it.
I think there's still two distinct formats, even if you were to play the finals on Hyperball. I think the majority of the players wanted it out of the woods, at least the finals. But I also understand, where you're coming from. It's like you've got two different products here. If you want this product where, you can see all the moves and all that, and it's got the greatest refs, that your product for you is the NXL. If you want to, go back to the glory days and have a beer in between your your games, then there's a product for you, and it's called the ICPL. And I agree with that 100%. But I also think that we could still have, for example, in Chicago, we could have the finals on the legendary Zipper Field, and you still have a separation of those two products, and everyone's happy.
Yeah, everyone's not happy though. So, and you think everybody's happy, and so I mean, if they want, there's no difference between a Zipper Field and an airball field, right? Absolutely none. The only difference is what is it? It's got a snake, it's got a Dorito side, and it's got a big thing in the middle. You get one end of the snake, you crawl down. We use the exact same nomenclature, right? Use that snake one. Where is that? It's the exact same spot at the World Cup as it was at the Chicago field. Maybe not the Zipper Field, because the Zipper Field's a little crazy. But all Hyperball is airball before we knew what we were doing. They got cracks in it. They got places for spray. You can't look out without having some shot coming through. And all that does is make it more complicated to ref, which benefits some people, right? And in the early days, you don't notice it. But if I took the Dynasty team that just won World Cup, they would crush everybody on that Hyperball field, right? Because it's exactly the same thing. And so, and if we want to have a Hyperball tournament, then we can have a Hyperball tournament for that retro. But you can't play a format that is from the golden days in the woods. And I'm going to get grief, right? Because I am doing weird stuff with airball and different stuff, right? But there's something different about the woods than anything else. The problem is you can't play ultra competitive in the woods. That's the other learning curve. It's like we've condensed our learning curve on what it took Jim Lively and all those guys a long time to learn. It is really hard to run extremely competitive people through the woods, right? You end up with stalemate. You end up with a lot of like people playing the dark side. There is no gray area in the woods. It's basically either you're leaving on the hit or you're not. And it's really hard to ref. And so to play in the woods almost has to be a for fun league. And if you notice, and I'll take, it's like some of these teams will just leave the format because they'll get driven out by those other people, right? And that's where I come into differentiating the product. It's like, Coke makes Coke and they make Gatorade and they make Monster. And I believe those three in the same family, but right, they make Monster, right? You don't try and blend them. Almost all those blended products end up a failure, right? Either you want Gatorade because you want fitness, or you want soda for Coke Zero. We'll go with Coke Zero. You want the soda because you want that caffeine and that pizzazz, or you want a Monster. But you can't just make a Coke Monster that's also hydrates, right? And maybe you could, but it's just you appeal to different people, right? I want to run around the woods and I want to crawl, and I don't want a bunch of shenanigans, and I want people to play fair and all that kind of stuff. I don't necessarily want to get run over by Dynasty in 7 seconds on a Hyperball field. You know what I mean? So, and we're trying to get different people. I mean, you said people want to go and drink a beer and all that stuff and have a good time, but you can't go play against someone that's made it their career to play paintball and then come out and play rec ball against them, right? That doesn't happen anywhere,
Sure.
So that's my theory, and I could be wrong. Obviously, I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think you're probably wrong. I think the products are still different, and you could because listen, we all love the woods. We're not saying get rid of woods. We're just saying take the woods.
If you're a good woods team, you're never going to win because you can do everything you want in the prelims, but then we're going to throw you against an NXL Pro team on Hyperball.
What are you talking about? NXL Pro team? Are you allowing more pros in ICPL?
No, but 3's a lot.
Three's a lot. Yeah, it's
I mean,
substantial.
look at who wins the different events. Go back and look at who wins the different events.
So Chicago was won by Image.
In the Woods.
In the Woods, yes.
Yeah. So if you look at the ones that are won by people not in the Woods, it'll typically be the ones with the most pro pedigree on their team. And okay. you got to look at that gray area of that thing. What is Rodney Squires and Glenn Forrester? Right?
Well,
they're not counted as pro, but you put them with a cap and a Dave Baines, right? You got a Dave Baines. I'm going to get in trouble for talking shit on this team, but you got Dave Baines, a phenomenal paintball player, regardless, you know what I mean? The fact that he hasn't played pro for a couple of years. I mean, a phenomenal player. You got Glenn Forrester. I'm not going to say he's a phenomenal player, but he's smart. Rodney is phenomenal. All of them played for Dynasty during their heyday. I mean, Dave Baines comes from the Russian X-Ball camp, right? Like going to Russia and training for a season, right? Mm-hmm. You're not going to beat them just on a hyperball, just going out and playing twice a year and having a good time. My opinion. Again, my opinion. So as you see those people, it just becomes less fun. There's a reason why they're not. So why would you play an ICBL and not play at an NXL event if you wanted to play, against Dynasty?
It's not Dynasty, though. It's washed up Dynasty. It's old guy Dynasty.
Washed up Dynasty. Yeah.
Like Rodney is phenomenal. Glenn is phenomenal. Baines is phenomenal, but they're old. I've played for that team. Tom, and I'm old too. And in the grand scheme of things, like X-Ball is a young man's game. Even though we have the
only difference is the fact that we've restricted the amount of pros. You're talking about a format. You're talking about the fact that we've restricted the amount of pros. I could do that in any division. I could do that in airball. You could play airball.
Well, you're just saying you just keep calling them Dynasty.
Well, I'm saying that if we did allow a Dynasty to play it, they would just dominate everybody. But they wouldn't dominate everybody in the Woods. All right, so let's take that old team. Let's take that old has-been team that we just talked about. Dave Baines, Rodney Squires, Glenn Forrester, Rennick, Todd Adamson. Let's just name a bunch of old people that played back in the day. They're has-beens now, right? Except for maybe Todd. Right? So we're all has-beens. We'll throw me on that team, right? I'll play Dynasty in the Woods every time. Maybe we won't win every time, but we'll win a lot. You put that same two teams on a hyperball field, we might get G1. Right? So it's the format. It's not right. So if I did that exact same thing on airball and we said we're going to limit the pro team to 3, then anybody can win in an airball field. You've just made a master's division is all you've done. That's what I'm saying. It hasn't changed the format. Format definitely changes people's performance. Look at the World Cup, the exhibition match. That team that won that has never won a pro tournament. The team that took in second, I don't know if they've ever made Sunday at a pro tournament.
Bears. Yeah. Right? Bears. NYX and Bears, yeah.
Format changes who can perform well. And obviously the roster restriction does something different, right? I could just say, we're only going to allow, 6'8" people play, and it would change the dynamic again. So that's my theory.
I like it. Tom, you're good at what you do. You're good at your job.
Well,
because we all have our perspectives, certainly. We'll sit here and be like, oh, why doesn't Tom do this and that, blah, blah. And you have good answers. You have good answers to defend the reasoning of the leagues and all that. So I'm a fan.
Well, I mean, and I'm not always right. I'll be the first one to admit, we make mistakes, and sometimes I'm wrong about some stuff. 2v2 I was wrong about. But we do think it out, right? Like, it's not like I'm just – and it just is what it is, right? You got to try stuff. And it does take, like the European thing. We didn't allow the Americans to play over there, and we restricted their roster for Americans, and no one seemed to like that, right? But sometimes when you believe in something, you just have to make it happen, right? You just have to try it. And that's why when people try other leagues and all that stuff, I'm 100% like, people are always like, are you concerned about that? I'm like, I love it, right? Like, let's go do it, Maybe the duel is the next best thing ever in paintball, right? That would be amazing, right? Maybe, right? I love that stuff, right? Because it's harder to do something on our scale, right? Every time we do something, it's affecting the global paintball economy, and people's lives, and people take it very seriously.
I was curious about, specifically at ICPL events, you always hear people talk about the glory days. The glory days are back. The glory days, this, that glory days. But I wonder, and maybe you have this information, like, I wonder, like, how many players do we have compared to the glory days? Like, let's say 2002. I don't know how many players we had, but I wonder how many we have in comparison to that.
2000, I can actually give you the players. 2002 is a neat year because it was the year before the split. It was, for the longest time, the largest World Cup ever. Because you got to remember, after 2003, the PSP and the MPBL split. So some teams played both, but some teams only chose which one. And the PSP still dominated the World Cup, but there were still some teams that did not play both. And so the numbers went down. But I actually, Camille just texted me something the other day. She said the MPPL in 2002 only had 680 teams in total.
For the whole year?
For the whole year. And I can't say if that's uniques or just entrance fees, but
gotcha.
It doesn't matter, right? Like we had 675 teams just at World Cup. So
how many teams did we have the whole year?
That,
like apples to apples.
That's an insane number for me to even do the math. For the whole year, I mean, let's say we averaged over 200 teams at the other 4 events, so that's another 800 plus 600. That's 1,400 right there, plus another random 100. How's that?
So the glory days are probably now because we have the biggest numbers that we've ever had.
Unquestionably, the glory days are now from a numbers point of view.
Yeah,
it's not even a question. We do more people now than ever. And I've been doing this forever, right? And I remember my glory day is the first Masters I went to, the 1989 Masters, right? And it had like 80 teams. That was the largest event I'd ever seen in my life, and made me want to do this as a career. It had 80 teams. And I went to the next Masters or the next Music City Open, which is the event of the season, and they had 21 teams, right? 21 teams. So I find that, and there's no doubt that the industry, and this is one of the challenges we face and we struggle with, is the industry back then was spending more money because there was more margin in the products. Everything was new. Everybody was spending money, and we were having product innovation year over year over year. So the industry was larger and spent more money. I mean, how many trucks did Dye bring to like the World Cup back in the day? Right?
2, 3,
4, I think, because they had Proto.
Yeah, that's right. Jeez.
Right. So you're looking at 4 tractor trailers. We don't have 1 tractor trailer now.
Right.
Not
all tents.
One company doing that. And that's why I'm pretty happy with Infamous, Hormesis, and Virtua for bringing those bigger trade show presence back. I mean, I think I'll give Travis the credit for kind of like starting that again, right? I mean, he really came out as a cool brand and a cool trade show booth and kind of created a real vibe around his stuff. And I started seeing his jerseys all over the world. And that's a team name brand, right? And then you had Hormesis come out, and obviously everybody knows the success they've been having. I mean, their booth was off the hook the entire weekend.
Yeah, pumping.
And I think people have undervalued what the cool factor is, right? I mean, there was a time when Dye was probably the coolest brand in paintball, and or JT, right? It's gone through different things, but and a lot of these companies have lost that cool. Whether it's because they aged out, right? The HK effect, right? Where they're people who were wild and crazy in their 20s are now like corporate managers of a big company, right? Which I appreciate, right? I love the fact that they've gone a little less crazy, right? But you've got to stay relevant, right? That's everybody's job, is to stay relevant. And I think Hormesis did a great job, and Infamous, and they've brought that hype back, and these other companies are going to have to counter compete. So when they say the glory days, there was definitely more industry presence back then than there was now. But there was definitely less people playing. Not even a question.
So we have more people playing now. And I mean, the goal always back then was to get the TV deal, right? Which which now the TV deal is, it doesn't matter at all. Like, who wants a TV deal? Everything's streaming. So we just got to figure out, we have more people playing paintball.
TV deal. So a TV deal is big money though, right? The NFL has a TV deal. Major League Baseball has a TV deal. Yes, we can get it out so people can watch it, but the TV deal is, I mean, I think the NFL's significant part of their revenue is the TV deal. It has nothing to do with people playing football or watching football at the stands or buying drinks at the stands or buying NFL jerseys, which is the way we currently generate all our revenue. It is 100% through the deals that they do with their partners. And they're
So Tom, are you looking for a TV deal for paintball? Or are you looking, like, how are you looking to get more eyes on paintball?
Well, all right. So a TV deal, once again, that's a confusing statement, right? Because
I know.
TV deal is the big four, right? You got the big channels, right? And now Amazon has kind of broken into that a little bit, right? But and that's a blend of whatever. So basically, we're the rights holder and we're looking for someone to help acquire those rights, right? That's someone that is willing to pay for the rights to a TV deal, or to a broadcast deal, right? Whether that's OTT, which stands for over the top, whether it's a fast channel, which is a commercial-based channel, or linear TV, which is your traditional TV, right? All of those things would be a boon for us. So we will have, in the next year, we will have several fast channels putting out our games. And what a fast channel is, and the best example I can give you is Amazon's freemium or freebie, right, channel, where you get to watch stuff and they have commercials in the middle of it. So that is the largest growing segment right now in the OTT world, right, which is not subscription-based, because none of the big subscription-based companies apparently are doing that well, except for Netflix and Amazon. So like Paramount and Disney and all those companies are struggling because there's so many different options and they're getting pretty narrow, right? You want to watch Star Wars, you got to play for Disney. You want to watch Yellowstone, you got to play for Paramount. You want to watch Game of Thrones, you got to pay for HBO. They have not figured out that business model now, and it's a quickly evolving with lots of disruptors coming into the space, ever changing, right? It's a complicated landscape, right? Something we are just now starting to dig into, but there definitely is some freemiums out there that we will have going into next year, both in the Europe, US, and in Asia. My prediction. It's not a fact, I guess, but it's a prediction.
So it's like when you sit at a bar and you see, or a restaurant, and you see on TV and they got a bunch of clips, it's like a highlight reel of funny videos, kind of stuff, like Chive TV. Are those the type of apps that you're talking about? Like just like this content that people watch in bars?
Correct. I mean, it's a little different, right? It's more like traditional linear TV, but that you're not going through a box or a landline. It's more like I said, Amazon. One of the big ones is The Zone, right? DNZN is one of the big movers in the space, and so is, I believe, it's Samsung. So it's all handled through an app, but just the difference is, instead of you paying $10 a month to get to watch it like a Netflix, it's free, and when you watch it, you have a commercial in the middle of it. I mean, if you go on your Roku thing, there's 1,000 of those channels, right? They're all vying right now to try and become the dominant player, and they become the dominant player by acquiring rights holders, which is us. So if you wanted to watch Game of Thrones, you paid for HBO. Now the move is going to be, if you want to watch NXL Paintball, you're going to watch it on Amazon Freemium, right? And then that's how it's going to go.
So has Major League Paintball picked out the channel that they want to use, the service that they want to use, or are we just waiting for someone to notice us?
We're pitching it to everybody, right?
Pitching it to everyone, yeah.
I feel we are the unseen snake player. And yes, would I like to play on Dynasty? Of course. But will I take a spot on the ML Kings? Absolutely. So, yeah. So it's, ESPN is obviously the dream, right? Everybody wants to be on ESPN, but yeah, we will take any of these people, and we will sign multiple deals, right? Because none of them are exclusive, and they're all probably going to be post-produced. But yeah,
of course.
So we're working on it, but it's not an easy road, and there's no one quick solution or whatever. So yeah.
So the mission of,
I was gonna say, we don't have enough viewers, right? That's the problem. No one wants to buy something, like let's just say at the high end, we're 20,000 viewers, right? Unique viewers. I mean, that's small number. I went to a college football
Yeah.
game. There's 110,000 people in the stands.
Yeah.
Right. That's more people that are going to watch us the whole year. I saw a thing the other day that said that Buc-ee's, the gas station that's in the South and in Texas, they have something like, I don't remember the number. It was like 10,000 cars a day or something. Right. Like that's, we feel like we're doing a lot because we had 1,200 cars at World Cup. Right.
It's nothing.
It's nothing in the scope of things.
Well, that's why I think it's hard to like pitch a media deal. That's why I kind of like Go Sports. I think that's moving in the right direction because it's our media thing, and then we can use our media thing to get the message out as opposed to looking for someone else to do it.
Yep. The problem is one, you have to, and it's multifold, right? So it's challenging. Let's see how to start this challenging part. So first, Go Sports is behind a paywall, right? That's the biggest challenge we're going to face, right? That means you have to pay $10 to get behind the paywall. The only people that we have currently watching the game are people that actively play the game. And we don't even show them a product that they're that familiar with. So if a person played, 3 million people played paintball last year, right? 3 million people. Of those people, how many of them you think played airball?
100.
There you go. So
not many.
So we have that built-in consumer base. So our first step is to start educating the people that are playing paintball as a recreational activity, birthday parties, whatever, that there is pro paintball. You know what I mean? Most of those people don't even know that. So that is for us to start because we do have a built-in audience of 3 million people. Now, would a freemium, let's just say we were on Amazon Prime, but it was behind a paywall, or not behind a paywall, behind a commercial thing. That just makes it easier for people to start to watch it and get engaged.
Yes.
Right. So
because it's already a service that they're using, watching other things on.
Yeah. So we did the Boy Scouts thing, right? So I don't remember having Boy Scouts went through our thing. I think it was 7,500 Boy Scouts, right? So of those 7,500 people, we told them we have pro paintball. We have women's pro paintball. We have an ICPL, which is people around the woods and tactical looking stuff. We have all these different things. And then we can set it into our YouTube channels, but the real product that we want them to watch is behind a paywall. And so that's the challenge. And then obviously everybody's easy solution is going to be just to get rid of the paywall. It costs Go Sports, $1 million a year to run that broadcast. Our broadcast is pretty nice. You know what I mean?
It's great.
Does a really good job.
It's incredible.
So, and this is the epiphany I had the other day. It's like when I was at a show in Monaco called Sports Hell, which is where you meet with TV people and you're trying to sell the TV rights. So we learned a lot there. But and then we did this exhibition. So you pick a sport, pick any sport that's on TV right now.
Okay. Soccer.
Okay. So let's say we were going to go run a 12-hour day at Huntington Beach of people playing soccer on the beach, right? And so we got 2 teams of, let's call it 5-on-5, and we went and played it, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would be the cost to play, assuming all the players were local, we already owned our own ball, and we wanted to play for 12 hours? What would the cost of the players be to play for 12 hours?
So you have to rent out the beach is what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying, let's just say the space is free. Everything's already there. Forget all the infrastructure. I'm just talking about what would it cost those 10 players to play all day for 12 hours as an exhibition?
Nothing.
Okay, so now let's put paintball on that same thing. What would it cost those 10 players to play for 12 hours? Assuming they already had their
$300.
$300. You think they're going to shoot 10 cases each?
Well, okay, so no entry, no air.
Yeah, everything else is free. I'm talking about just the paint. Just the consumable. Right? That's
2 cases, maybe?
For 12 hours?
3 cases.
The teams now, they play for an hour at an event. They shoot 100 cases. They play 1 hour. That's their total Eclipse paintball time right now. Dynasty.
So that's 10 per player, right?
Yeah, in an hour. Multiply that times 12 hours. That's 1,200 paintballs. Divide that. That's per 5-man team. So that's 2,200 cases of paint that we would shoot in 12 hours for 2 teams. And do that math. there's no other major sport other than racing that once the product is paid for is so expensive. That's one of the big challenges we face. So let's just say 2,000 cases times $30 a box. That's $60,000 to do a 12-hour exhibition just in paint. Compared to football, cornhole, pickleball, the fad of the day, baseball, soccer, basketball, you name it.
Just buy the ball.
Just buy the ball. And forget the fact that, like, we're already more expensive on the ball part, right? Because if you want to play football, right, on Thanksgiving, day after Thanksgiving, there's going to be people all across the United States playing football on that Friday, right? And they're not going to play with pads, right? There's definitely a cheaper version of playing football. But even the most expensive version of football, you could practice all day or play an exhibition all day. Short of being tired, there's no incremental cost. Our cost just keeps going through the roof. And then you touched on a little bit the infrastructure. And I know this because I sit at these shows all the time and I hear the guys pitching what I'm pitching right beside me. And the National Football League or the National Flag Football League guy, there's 1,000 courses in the United States that he just shows up, hands out 20 flags to the two teams, and they go play each other with 4 officials. When we go to do that, we build a net and bring in a compressor and bring in 14 referees. So
it sounds like a big pain in the ass. Like, how do we make money at this? How is that even possible? Is everyone just losing their ass?
Well, I mean, I think the manufacturers are doing okay. I don't think tournament guys do that well. But I mean, we're going to have to come up with some changes, right? Some of the stuff that we do. But I'm just saying, we're playing the cards we were dealt, right? Not everybody's dealt 4 aces, right? To start the hand, right? So we've been dealt 4 twos, and not even 4 twos, a 2, 3, 4, a queen. We're trying to do what we can, right? So
Tom, the mission statement, right, for Major League Paintball is to grow the sport of paintball without compromising the integrity of the game.
Correct.
Right?
No. It's to grow the game of paintball without compromising the sport.
Compromising the sport.
So there's 2 different things going on there, right? So for a lot of people, paintball is a game, right? So you can add a tank to a game. You can add a guy that's invincible, right? You can add all these little nuances, right? At a big game, it is definitely, arranged sometimes so that the red side doesn't just dominate the blue side, right? So that's the game of paintball. In the sport of paintball, it is not our job to determine how the game goes, right? I want the best team to win at that time, right? So that's the integrity of the sport versus growing the game. Does that make sense? So I don't want to have a WWE, right? It is not worth it to me. This is my personal opinion. I would not want to change the sport of paintball to WWE and have the games fixed and have like Aftershock back with a bunch of people that are built like Mike Paxton, and then occasionally they just run down and kill an Alec Ferraggi, right? Because that's good for TV, right? And you build these characteristical, villains and good guys. Like, have you ever been to like the big truck things where they go and they race and do all that stuff, right? That's all rigged, and all the people are personalities to the extreme left and extreme right? They're going to have, the construction worker, the army guy, the urban guy, right? They build these instant fan bases and they rig the games. I don't want to become a Hollywood production. I want to stay a sport, right? So I don't want to compromise the integrity of the sport in order to grow the game. If that makes sense.
So grow the game without turning it into a fake game. Like, maintain the fact that it's a competitive game. Yeah. So that's the mission statement for Major League Paintball. What is the goal?
I believe they're about the same. You mean the short-term goals? I mean, my short-term goal next year is to increase the knowledge of the entry-level user base into what pro paintball is, and to create fans of our teams. Easier said than done. But for an example, when we have a field, let's use Skirmish, right? Skirmish is one of the largest fields in the country. Skirmish and SC Village, we're going to use those 2 people. Two of my favorite people, two completely different business models. You got Giovanni on one side at SE Village, and you got Paul Fogel at Skirmish, right? They both have two different business models. At Skirmish, we should have a kiosk there that has a picture of New York Extreme playing on it, a WNXL team, and an ICPL team from New York. I'm going to have a mental lapse right now. And then in California, we should have, the SC Ironman or Dynasty on their little thing, and a video playing with a QR code that those people can say, this is your local team.
Yeah.
Become a fan and watch them, right? Because that's how it works, right? That's
totally
right. And so we should do a better job of that instead of just, and we tweak the formats, and I'm as much as fault as everyone else. Like my phone, like literally today, I have messages from people pitching different formats, Noel, attack and defend and all that stuff, right? And I love the changes in formats, but we also just need to educate the consumer and say, hey, we offer this, right? So
who has the biggest responsibility here, Tom? I believe is the refs at your local field. Because I think about back when I started playing, and I can remember specific instances where a ref encouraged me to continue playing when I probably would have given up. Or they made things easier for me. They gave me a Gatorade, or they saw I was showing up at the field alone, so they kind of helped me out on the field. I think the refs are the biggest difference maker. The entry level refs at the paintball field, those guys are the biggest difference maker when it comes to growing the sport or having someone even show up again. So I think we need to come up with this kind of this federation or this organization or this mastermind where everyone says, yes, we're all going to meet. We're going to have our refs meet. And basically these refs learn how to sell paintball, reinforce the experience that these kids are on every minute of every day that they're at the paintball field. So they want to come back. And that's how we grow the sport. That's how we get people that want to be pro. So, beyond that.
So this year we introduced the Summit, right? Which is an extension of the extravaganza, right? Which has been around for years. So we are now taking that over and going to do that. And one of the big pushes is going to be the refs. Yes, the point of contact. The point of contact with the consumer is very important. And I had a neat conversation with a guy at one of these sports conferences where I was kind of complaining about some our industry and how we do stuff, that was immature, right? We haven't fully molded into the business we want to be, right? And we all complain, it's a race to the bottom, or this field does this field does that. And he's like, would you consider yourself a leader in your industry? And I was, I'm probably one of them. And he was like, well, then lead. Stop talking about what people should do or could do, then go ahead and lead. And that struck home to me, right? So to expect, a 17-year-old referee at a park to suddenly become a paintball advocate, right? And there are a lot of them, right? But we have to educate them and spend that time
for sure.
Do that, right? So the first step is having the summit and get the store and field owners there and explain to them how important that is to their long-term success. And then after that, starting a test and a scoring system for the referees that are running these parks. I mean, because they need to learn customer service. They need to learn. I mean, most of the time, the person at the park, your stereotypical, will be a beginning paintball player that is using this as a way to get paint or just continue his experience and his role in paintball. And he means the best, but he might not have the tools to do what he needs to do. Right. So we got to help give them the tools. And to be honest with you, I did not for a long time feel it was the place of the NXL to do this stuff because we are the ultra high end, right? We are the people. But through attrition and time and the way the industry works, I really feel like the NXL was in a position to help with that. And that's kind of one of the reasons why we created Major League Paintball. I mean, there's multiple reasons, but one is to become kind of like a proponent of just paintball in general, not just the NXL. And you're going to see more coverage on the Major League Paintball stuff of, the Psycho Clown Posse and the big game. You know what I mean? We want to be all paintball is important. And we sometimes forget that there's all these other paintball formats that are bigger than ours even. We just create a lot. We get a lot of the limelight, right? So we need to go do it. One of my favorite things is Wolf, who I think is a great person. I did a cartoon picture of him at the Boy Scout thing, and I did a cartoon picture of Ryan Greenspan, and both of them had like all of their product with arrows pointing to all the different cool products. And when the kids walked by, I said, point at the one that you think is cooler. And almost every one of them pointed at Wolf. One kid pointed at Ryan, and Ryan, he said, told Ryan's like, I was making fun of Ryan. Ryan's like, I would even point at Wolf. He's got like a tactical vest on, you know? So, you know, we need to be all things to all people that are going to be playing the game of paintball, not just the high-end tournament guys.
Sounds like a tall order, my friend.
It's a challenge, but you know, like I said, it'd be a lot easier not to do anything, right? I would rather try and not succeed, and that sounds cliche, right? But I'm going to try stuff, right? And I thought of this when I was getting all that grief about the exhibition and all this stuff online. I'm like, if you guys want someone that's going to be happy with the status quo, I'm not your guy, right? I'm going to keep doing my thing, keep trying to do different stuff, and keep doing it. And maybe I'm, you know, maybe there needs to be a different guy at some point. But right now I'm the guy, and that's kind of the vision that I have, and we'll keep trying and see if it works. And I'm assuming as long as the team counts keep growing, the industry's not going to revolt and say, you know, we need a new person at the top right now. So,
you know what would be a cool exhibition? Maybe. Some guy sent me a message actually on Instagram. His name's Steven Smith. So Steven, if you're listening, thank you. But he's saying to make the games faster, keep the format the way it is. However, if a team scores a point in under 25 seconds, it's worth 2.
So I think Marcelo had this idea as well. So
do you like that?
I do, but there's a lot of challenges with it. So keep in mind, how to explain this? So we run a very complicated system, right? We have a scoreboard that is Bluetooth to a buzzer that is in a position where it gets shot and gets hit. There is another Bluetooth scoreboard that has a fob that has to be pressed to it to stop the game time, right? So all these things have to work in complete sync. And if one of them does not work, the consumer experience, which is the team, is ruined, right?
Yeah.
So we keep making stuff more complicated. So we have to arbitrate that guy got there at 24 seconds or 26 seconds. And that can be whether the team moves on to World Cup finals or not. And so now we're putting it back in the ref's hands, right? So that was one of the challenges with 7-man. This is the challenge with single flag formats, right? Like a 7-man, 5-man, all that stuff is too much can go wrong and there's no way to fix it. So, and that was why everybody left frustrated. The current format we have, one of the big joys of it is if you screw up in point 1 and you commit a penalty, a majoring, whatever the penalty is, like a major, you could be playing down the next body, next point. And that's going to create problems for you, right? So there's consequences. So it's a longer term thing. So that is one of the big benefits of this match style play over a single play. And if we went to some type of timed buzzer, we would go back to that. And I learned that the hard way through the UWL. I ran a format called the UWL where for every minute you held a flag, you got points. And if you screwed that up, if you looked away for a minute and you look back up and the flag had changed colors, you've completely screwed up the entire match.
Yeah.
And then imagine
it's
tough to track. And even though we could pull it off, and me and Marcelo have this constant debate, right? The perfect format for the high end is basically the same format that every park in the world's running, right? So if you're going to run a tournament in Malaysia, you're going to run one in Thailand, you're going to run one in South Africa, that guy should be basically running the same tournament we are here. And we kind of have that, but the consumer really wants that same experiences that they watch on Go Sports. And we have to kind of try to always keep that in mind when we're coming up with new formats.
Well, I love it, Tom. I know that you're the guy for the job, making things happen for paintball, helping it grow. And I thank you for everything that you do for paintball. What's in store for us paintball nerds for 2024? Anything that you can tell us? Anything new and exciting?
I wouldn't say anything new and exciting. We expect gambling to go bigger, right? So we've got it approved in Colorado, and we got a book set up maybe like 5 days before World Cup, so not enough time for anybody to bet. Like literally, we announced it as everybody was probably already in Orlando. So even if you lived in Colorado, you wouldn't have been able to bet. And I do know that some people did place some bets and some people did win, but I see that as being a way to kind of grow the viewership of it. And it's also just neat, right? I think it's neat to gamble, right?
I think it's neat to gamble. Tom Cole, I think it's neat to gamble.
In moderation, let's say that. But no, I mean, you see it in the VIP. People are all the time, you know, they're betting $1 or a drink on who's going to score the next point and all that kind of stuff. Yep, and
for sure.
It just keeps people activated, right? Keeps people engaged in the game and gives them another reason to watch. I mean, if you put $1 on a football game, you are typically going to be more interested in that game than if there's nothing, you know?
For sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I actually got to collect $1 from Mike Hinman. I'm not going to say what the bet was for, but yeah, Mike Hinman owes me $1.
You got $1 from Hinman, man.
I got $1 from Hinman. I'm sure he wins more bets than I do because we're usually predicting paintball related stuff. He's pretty smart in that category. So, yeah, no, this one I happened to win, so it made me happy. But yeah, I think the gambling thing is going to be neat. I think we're going to continue to see grow. I think we're going to see the WNXL grow. And we are going to see TV on some of these freemium channels going into 2024 and hopefully bigger things in 2025 on the TV front.
Awesome. Paintball on streaming.
I think the award show is going to be amazing, right? I think we've never had a true award show. You know, they have some in the UK, which is actually one of the things that started this. They have a proper, as the English would call it, a proper award show over there. And I think seeing some of these people get recognized, you know, we're going to recognize store and field owners that we think are pushing the needle. We're going to recognize players that are doing a great job in scenario, X-ball or, you know, airball and classic paintball. 3 different categories, you know? So I think that's going to be neat, right? So
what are we calling this now? Is it called the Summit Awards or?
It's called the Summit Awards.
Okay. So we have the Summit Awards, then we also have the Summit event, which replaces the extravaganza.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, got it. That's new and exciting.
Yeah, we think it'll be neat. I mean, you're going to have Sunday night. Everybody's going to be there for the tournament. And then Sunday night will be the award show. And then hopefully that same Sunday, all the people will be coming in for the summit / extravaganza for the classes and all that stuff. So that Sunday night should be a peak thing. Plus, it's going to be a pretty neat players party. I mean, we're at a pretty marquee location. It's the largest screen in Vegas is what we're going to be showing, like the move of the year and all that kind of stuff. We're also going to have, you know, media guy of the year and people that are moving it, right? So whether that's going to be Let's Talk Paintball or the Paintball Nerd or who knows what.
We'll see. Stay tuned.
So I think it'll be neat. I think it'll push the envelope on some stuff, right? So I think that'll be neat. I'm excited about that.
Awesome, dude. I am too. Yeah, the Vegas event is a big win for sure. Like that's going to be awesome.
The Vegas event's good. And also, I mean, like we just put our schedule out, right? It's the earliest the schedule's ever got out. You know, the ICPL schedule will be out here in the next couple of days. So to have all this stuff out before Thanksgiving is pretty good. And then what's going to happen at the summit is we're going to meet with the teams and the industry and all that stuff and kind of pitch our vision for 2025 and get their feedback so that we're not waiting till after World Cup to kind of talk about what we're going to do next year, right? We're hoping to have our venues done by June of next year. That's probably a bit of a statement, but at least start talking with the pro teams about like what our goals are for 2025 and what they would like to see out of it, right? If we could start that at the beginning of the season, I think that's a win. Creating that dialogue makes everybody feel like they're a part of it. We get some insight for them. They get to see where we're going instead of me just announcing, you know, an exhibition or something that we're changing, right? I think one of the challenges we had with the exhibition was I think people thought I was trying to replace X-Ball for 2024.
Well, and it's called an exhibition. You know.
Well, but I mean, we didn't really convey that information enough, right? Like the last time there was an exhibition, we did end up going to X-Ball, right? That was Richmond did that, right? The Amateur Open, we had an exhibition. Next year, I believe we were all playing X-Ball. So I can understand that concern. We don't want to change something that we all love, right?
Sure.
And I think that's a mistake the industry and the leagues have made in the past is I think they get together in January and we decide what we're going to do in the next season and we make a lot of mistakes that way. And you give people an off ramp to stop playing, right? That's the other thing. Every time you change something, you give someone an off ramp.
Yeah, to quit.
Yep.
Well, it sounds like this next year is going to be really more about, you know, getting everyone together on the same page and planning to have a kick-ass 2025. At least that's what it sounds like you're communicating.
Yeah, I mean, we've grown, right? So we started with just the NXL and 5 events, and then we added, and I don't know the exact order, and then we added the ICPL, which we added 4 events at the ICPL, and then we added NXL Europe, which is another 4 events. It's turned into 3 events since COVID, right? So we've basically doubled our workload without really circling back and making sure our infrastructure was sound. So we're going to do some rebuilding on our end and also try and work more with the field store owners to make sure we're all on the same page. And that way our initiative and their initiatives are kind of going together, because both sides really want to grow paintball, right? The more people that play paintball at the park, the more we're going to see at the end, and the more that are going to end up in that fulfillment line of, you know, they go from playing rental to recreational to competitive, whether that's big game, classic, or airball. And then at some point in time, hopefully we get them at the very top end, right? So the next Ryan Greenspan is playing a rental birthday party this weekend, right? So
that's true.
But if he doesn't know there's a Ryan Greenspan, that there's even a person to be like, then how would he know that was the path?
He wouldn't. So he'd have to find it in a magazine, which doesn't exist.
Magazines don't exist. Now everything is social media.
Awesome. Tom, man, thank you so much for your time here.
Thank you very much.
Looking forward to 2024. Anything you want to part with for the paintball community, sir?
No, just everybody keep what they're doing. You know what I mean? Everybody, here, I'll give you one shout out. A shout out. You guys need to look after every league that exists, right? It is easy to crap on a league, right? Whether it's your local 3-man or a regional league like the MSXL, they really are a necessary part of the sport. And I see them sometimes getting wore out on social media. And obviously I get wore out on social media. So I'm not concerned about myself. I have tough skin. I know what I'm up against. But if you know, when you lose one of these guys, you're going to lose tournament paintball in that area. And, you know, it's okay to vent your concerns or whatever, give new ideas or ways that they can do better. But it just should not be so down in the dirt. How's that? Because they get wore out sometimes. Well, I'm not even saying be kind. I'm just saying not be an absolute ass. It's one of my favorite stories is some guy wore me out after World Cup, and I'm always at my worst after World Cup because you feel like you've done all this work and you're tired and you feel like you're going to get back and the internet is just going to be like, thank God we had the World Cup, and then some guy is just destroying me, like whatever, very personal attack, right? Whatever. And so I always Facebook stalk him after that to see what they do, right? And his entire Facebook page is like about trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes so you don't know where they are in life. And it's like a suicide prevention entire Facebook page about everything in his life. But then when it comes to like a public figure, it's okay to just like destroy that person online. So, and you never know where someone's at, right? So
true.
A tournament guy could be right on his verge of giving it up, and you go wear him out in your local market. And I'm talking local markets, right? You wear them out in your local market, and suddenly they don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So
be a good person.
Yeah, you can be critical, but just try not to be shit.
Yeah. Words to live by. Thank you, Tom.
Yep. All right. Thanks, guys.